Greetings, Terrarians, Khaios here. Welcome to this week's time-lapse build. I hope you all had a pleasant weekend. Last Monday, I held a poll on my Discord server to find out which style of build you all would like to see me tackle today. The winner of that poll was a post-apocalyptic theme. So today I'm building an irradiated abandoned factory turned into a bandit camp. If you guys would like to vote on what I build next Monday, you can find the poll within my Discord server, which has a link in the description below. So the first thing that I did was hop into T-Edit and selected some hardened crimson block because I knew I wanted the crimson desert background. It looks very post-apocalyptic to me. It's a little bit darker lighting and I just felt that it fits the theme quite nicely. But I also wanted it to be relatively close to the spawn point. So I quarantined it off with some brown painted clay so that the crimson wouldn't spread any further. And then I added the hardened crimson block. For the factory, after laying the false foundation, I decided to do something a little bit different on the sidewalls and on the roof. So for the sidewalls, I'm using ebonwood painted gray to kind of give it an interesting textured stone look. And it's flanked with some rich mahogany fence painted gray and some ebon stone brick painted gray as well. For the roof, I have some stone slab across the top with some white painted Titan stone block, just to give it a little bit of a worn, rougher texture, with some copper and tin plating for support beams along the top. The smokestacks that you see coming out of the top of the factory are made out of gray painted palladium column. For the background walls, I'm going with a nice concrete texture that I used for the underground bunker build that I did previously, and that's the white painted Titan steel block. I feel that it gives a really nice industrial look. The windows are just glass that have been painted brown to make them look a little bit dusty and kind of faded and worn in and really old. And the way that you get this texture is you just have two rows of glass with holes punched in between them to create that cross pattern, and then you just repeat and repeat. It's pretty simple, but it looks nice. The only thing to bear in mind is that this will invalidate the housing, but since I'm building in the crimson anyway, this house was never going to be valid, so it's not really a concern for me. I'm lining the windows with some gray brick, as well as lining the bottom part and the top part of the buildings with some ebon stone brick painted gray and some copper plating. For the ladder, against the background, I have some purple rain wallpaper that's painted gray. It makes for a really nice metallic looking mesh, and the steps themselves are the steampunk platforms. To hold up the catwalk, I decided to use some white painted palladium column that's been actuated and pushed into the background, just to make it look like something is actually holding this up. And here I considered adding some handrails using some different blocks and different techniques. I tried out some palladium column, I tried out some deactivated torches. In the end, I wasn't exactly happy with either of them, so I decided to go with no handrail on the catwalk. And now I'm just making a couple of large furnaces that are going to be lit with some living flame, and they're going to be producing smokestacks later on in the build when I go into T-Edit and add some chimneys to the top. Now I'm just adding some pipework to the factory just for an aesthetic feel, and for that I'm using some orange painted Dynasty wood just because, in my opinion, it is the best looking pipe material. Now I'm punching some holes in the wall because I want this factory to look like it's falling apart in certain places, but not only that, I want to make it look like after the nuclear disaster that happened in the area, some bandits took over the area and they've made a camp, so they've actually built onto it with a bunch of wood and copper and whatever materials they might have scrounged up around the area. So I'm going to add a couple of bandit structures hanging off the side of the factory. The background wall is brown painted spooky wood. It also has some shade wood fence painted brown, and the roof is also spooky wood. The pillars are made out of living wood wall, and the cross beams are just actuated living wood. Now I'm adding some crates around just to make the factory look like it was filled with a bunch of stock and supplies. I'm using wooden crates and I'm using iron crates. I'm also using some brown painted jungle crates. I also wanted to have some trash cans that looked like they were burning rubbish in them, just to give a nice feel to kind of fit in the atmosphere. I couldn't exactly add the living fire to the trash bins. I considered doing that in T-Edit, but it didn't quite look right. So what I ended up doing was taking some white paint and placing it onto some palm wood, actuating it so it fit into the background, and then throwing some living flame on top of that. Next, I wanted some pools of irradiated water hanging around the build, just because I've seen some other people do this in the past with post-apocalyptic builds, and I just love the way that it feels. Personally, I'm using some Emerald Gemspark wall painted deep lime to just give it a nice color, but I'm also adding the watercolor a little bit different by using a corruption fountain to bring it to a purple, and it gives it this nice eerie irradiated glow. I'm also throwing a little bit more of the Gemspark block into the backgrounds beneath the build to make it look like the radiation is really saturating into the ground around it. The black tires that you're seeing are just silly balloons, particularly the pink and the purple one, painted black and then actuated into the background, just alternating on top of each other so it looks like a stack of tires. And since this was a bandit camp, I thought that it would be appropriate to have a couple of hanging cages with some skeletons in them. Now I'm just adding a little bit more detail to the build by adding some more furniture, some more crates, some beds, trash bins, and just banging up the walls with a hammer and filling it in with some Hellstone brick painted white just to make it look a little bit more rough. Then I'm going in T-Edit, place a couple of chimneys, a few more fountains underneath the ground to make sure that the water is actually purple, even though it looks green with that emerald background. And then I'm grabbing some dye plants and finishing off the build with some nice looking brown aesthetics. And that is my post-apocalyptic build done. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed the build. If you did, be sure to leave a like and a comment. And please consider joining my Discord server so you can vote on the poll for next week. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll catch you all later. Happy building.